Hello, welcome to Cascadia Speaks, CascadiaNow Ambassador Training. Thank you all for being here. This is the third installment of our webinar series, highlighting the distinct regional and cultural identity of the Cascadia bioregion. You can view our previous Cascadia Speaks webinars on the CascadiaNow YouTube channel, and this video will be available there once tonight's event has concluded. So just to get you set up to best enjoy Cascadia Speaks, on the right of the screen, you're going to see a chat and a polls tab, and those will be useful during this webinar. Our presenter is going to answer questions during and after his presentation, so please type questions or comments in chat anytime. There might be a couple of polls this evening that will pop up in the bottom of the chat. If you think you missed one, you can check out the polls tab at any time. So without further ado, let's get started with Cascadia Speaks, the CascadiaNow Ambassador Training. Our presenter tonight is Andrew Schlosser, and he grew up in Seattle and studied sociology at Seattle University. Since graduating in 2011, he has spent most of his time working to help build another local nonprofit, the Seattle Solidarity Network. He enjoys spending time on Washington's beaches with his wife and son, and he is always excited to help connect volunteers with new opportunities to celebrate this beautiful place. Tonight, Andrew is going to speak with us about the CascadiaNow Ambassador Program, where you're going to learn how to represent Cascadia now and share the information about the bioregion in your part of Cascadia, wherever you are. And you can also get support from CascadiaNow for your own projects and ideas. So this is just a little outline of what we've got going on tonight that you're looking at now. And Andrew, thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you at Cascadia Speaks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks again for being here. I just started a poll that you should be seeing on the right there. If you are already an ambassador, part of this is sort of a two-part presentation. If I've already spoken with you before, you'll have heard some of it before. But if you're new to Cascadia now and new to the ambassador program, also want to keep things relevant to you. So I was just hoping to get a quick idea of the breakdown of people in the room. So please answer that. It looks like most of you I have already spoken with, but I'll still go over other things briefly. Let's start with the basics. Cascadia, if you don't know, is a bioregion, which is a region defined primarily by its watershed connectivity. In our case, the watersheds of the Fraser, Columbia, and Snake Rivers. It's also a unique cultural identity, essentially another way of talking about the Pacific Northwest. And then in addition to that, is becoming increasingly a social movement within the Pacific Northwest about an active inhabitation of place, knowing the impact of your choices and behaviors and directing that impact in a positive way. So Cascadia Now is a 501c3 nonprofit founded in September of 2014 that aims to amplify some of the great things coming out of that social movement. And so we do several things. Primarily, we want to provide resources and publicity and operate as communications hub for grassroots projects. And then we aim to inspire all Cascadians to get active in their communities in a positive way. And we aim to educate people about their bioregion and bioregionalism at large. So this program, the Ambassador Program, is our attempt as we're sitting here working with people, trying to figure out the best way to build a regional network We know people are doing all sorts of cool things all over the place, but really wanting to find a way that we can help make sure that everyone knows what Cascadia is and can work together to protect and improve it. So we would hope that you would join us in that work. Becoming an ambassador could mean a lot of things. First and foremost, at a minimum, it would just mean getting out in public somewhere near you and tabling in all likelihood, maybe a farmer's market, perhaps a university campus, and just talking to people about Cascadia, talking to them about CascadiaNow, seeing what issues they're passionate about, and maybe connecting them with your passions. For that second part of ambassadorship, that could mean a lot of things. I have a few ideas for you, but I should stress that if you have your own idea, maybe if you already have your own project that you feel is Cascadian and are excited about, we would definitely want to hear about that and help empower you to run with that. But if you don't have ideas, in addition to setting up an info table, a couple other things that folks have done, or in the Seattle area at least, that you could consider are, one, maybe having some kind of stewardship work party or forest restoration work party. Going to a local park or trail, trying to rally some people to help you restore that place, get out there, do good public service work. Another idea would be to start a book or discussion group, or, like I said, something else entirely. So really, we want our ambassadors to find what gets them excited, and we want to help you do what gets you excited. I know most of you here tonight have heard that part, and probably maybe already have some ideas, and at a minimum, I know are tuning in because you're ready to go tabling in public, but maybe have some questions and are curious to see how we at CascadiaNow, or how I might answer a given question when I'm tabling. So I'm looking on the right in the chat bar. Please, if you have questions, either for me about CascadiaNow, or additionally just would like to know how, if you're out in public and someone asks you about Cascadia, what do I say? What do I do? I would love to use this forum as an opportunity to have a go at those and make it a little easier for you. To start with that, I can say that usually when someone is kind of wanders up to our table, is kind of looking at stuff, looking at our maps, looking at our flag. Often one of the first ways I might engage them is to be like, oh, I see you're looking at our flag. Have you seen our flag before? Do you know the history of the flag? And usually they don't. And I'll say, our flag, if you don't know, all of you watching, was designed by Alexander Baratek, a professor out of Portland, I believe. And it's designed to represent the natural beauty of our bioregion. So you have green for our forest and greenery, you have white for our mountains and snow, and you have blue for our oceans and waterways. And then, of course, the Doug fir standing proudly in the center, one of the most common trees found all throughout our bioregion.
Hey, Andrew, I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you, Rebecca, for telling us that she can't see or hear you. I can still hear you, but you are not broadcasting here. It's interesting.
Oh.
Do you?
Am I now? I just heard a little ding, Bethany, and I saw myself go full screen.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, so Rebecca says it's working again. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And Spencer says he can see you now too. So sorry to interrupt, Andrew, but
no,
thank you.
I'm curious if is there a need for me to start over or go backwards, or I'll just go from here. It looks like some people had caught most of that because I see questions coming in. So yeah,
please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you, Bowen, for your question. There you go.
Sorry about that, folks. Thanks for hanging with us. I see one question from Bowen. How do I know who in my area has shown interest in CascadiaNow? Great question. So at this, that's something we could definitely help connect you with. If you're getting started, well, let me back up. Let me say that if I wasn't clear, ambassadorships are also just a starting point, right? I mean, they could just be, we're fine. We definitely want to support individuals doing whatever great work they're excited about. But obviously we hope that in some places, some people will also attract more people and ultimately form a chapter of Cascadia Now. So that is certainly one goal of this program, would be that an ambassador does good work, recruits some more folks, and starts a chapter, which in that case, or in any case, when you're trying to get more people to take together to take on more activities, how do you know who's already interested? So over this year and a half and beyond, we've interacted with thousands of people, and our nonprofit has a database where we've been tracking those interactions. So if you were getting to a point where you wanted to have a public event, I actually can search our own database of our members and figure out, okay, who's everyone who has contacted us in the Vancouver area. And at some point I could either, we would talk, I could give you that list, or I would talk to them and I would maybe announce your event for you to that local list. So we have been gathering some of that, and I would definitely am excited to start sharing that, because right now in a lot of we have all these people who are super excited to do stuff, but obviously live scattered all over the place, and would love to connect them with an ambassador to do something. Other questions? Another one that we get, of course, at times is, oh, I've never heard of Cascadia. Where does that come from? Who coined that? And obviously there's different history. The Cascades as a term dates all the way back to a Scottish botanist, David Douglas, but Cascadia was actually coined by a sociology professor out of the Seattle University. David McCloskey also does a fabulously detailed map of the bioregion, so people are sometimes interested to learn that. Other questions you might get out there? I'm trying to think. Let's do maybe a tougher one. This one will come up now and then, like, are you secessionists? That's Cascadia is all about seceding from the Union and starting a new country. And that may be what it's about for some people, but definitely for Cascadia Now, we are not secessionists. We are a 501c3 legally recognized nonprofit. We're more interested in helping empower people right now, right away, to do good work in their communities, to make it a better place and not get too bogged down in abstract political goals or ideologies. Other questions? I'm looking on my right here. If you can think of anything, either a question for me personally or just a question that you wouldn't be sure how to answer if you were to become an ambassador and be out there passing out our flyers and everything. I see one coming in here. I'm very involved in the community. I'm always interested in tabling at my university, but I'm not sure I feel comfortable talking directly about Cascadia as a political or cultural movement. I would, however, be interested in tabling for a related cause initiative. Any ideas? So that's a great question. If you are not necessarily that feeling terribly confident speaking about Cascadia at large, but you do something that you believe is consistent with our work, there's a few things we could do with that. One thing that we offer, there's actually another webinar on our YouTube channel you could watch about it, is fiscal sponsorship. We sometimes sponsor grassroots projects, bring them under our umbrella as a nonprofit, which allows them to take tax-exempt donations and reap all the benefits of our communications on social media channels and the website. So that's one way we work with other organizations. I mean, I should say they still usually, identify as Cascadian and have our name somewhere, but that's not necessarily the focus. The primary focus of their work is maybe something more tangible. So that's one thing. The other thing would be, of course, for us to keep developing our materials or keep working with you to get you feeling more confident. Ideas for other webinars, other books, other things we could do to give people that confidence. Okay, I see more questions popping in here. What about my liability for nature walks and group events? Do we have lawyers? A very good, very practical question. Cascadia Now, we are insured. We do have lawyers. I believe if you're just unincorporated, if you're an ambassador doing your own thing, that's pretty informal. I mean, of course, people do it all the time, but no, you would be acting on your own. I would have to check in with our associate director and our insurance broker, of course, but I do think that I would be hopeful that we could work out with our policy if you were actually to start a chapter and have a more formal legal connection to us, I think that we could get that covered. And I'm not sure, and fiscal projects, I should mention, sponsored nonprofit projects yet are definitely covered by our insurance.
Andrew Bowen asked if, do you have a proven format for tabling?
A proven format? I'm not sure I fully understand the question. I can tell you what we've done, and I think it works pretty well. I should have mentioned for new ambassadors, if you were to say you want to be an ambassador, I would speak with you and send a tabling kit out to you that would have, we have lots of free stickers that we give out to people and flyers about Cascadia and maps they can look at and the flag and that kind of thing. What's worked pretty well for us is, I mean, in general, I think you would be pleasantly surprised at the positive response you get. I don't have a whole lot of negative interactions. People are usually interested in what they're seeing, interested in speaking with me. If I see, in terms of proven format, I guess that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning. If I see someone, kind of looking half interested, I try to start the conversation. I definitely don't want to leave it on them. I initiate it and I try to, say, oh, what are you looking at? Oh, have you seen this map before? Check it out. What do you think? Cool map, right? Or check out this flag, check out this flyer, check out this photo of our crazy Sasquatch float in the parade. I don't know if that's answering your question, but it's proven in the sense that it does get lots of people to sign up to hear more from us, and has been effectively recruiting people to get involved. So that has been working well.
Sammy wanted to know how CascadiaNow feels about political movements, specifically guns, federally protected areas. This is a question I'm sure that you've been getting a lot lately, Andrew. But how CascadiaNow feels about guns, federally protected areas, such as a wildlife refuge or monuments or First Nations.
Great question. I should say, so ideologically, we hope to have a big tent here at CascadiaNow. I mean, we want to empower people to do things that are making Cascadia a better place and not necessarily define that along, the arbitrary lines that are imposed on us or arbitrary political system imposed on us from the top down. So I should say, we don't take grand political stances. That's not really our mission. We haven't done any work for or against guns, but I can tell you that, despite having many vegetarians, for example, I'm a vegetarian. We also we're having a conversation recently with a guy who wants to start a meat buying collective that is interested in purchasing livestock directly from local producers and then lowering that cost for consumers through this collective to make that more affordable. So it would be an example of a project that I could see being quite popular in the red parts of Cascadia that like red meat, but I think it is also consistent with our values of helping foster a more independent, resilient Northwest. As for the Oregon armed occupation of federal lands, that would definitely be not something we could endorse even if we wanted to. As a nonprofit, we would probably lose our charter, probably be taken from us. But more than that, it's just not our interest. It's not our area to be doing that kind of thing.
Thanks, Andrew. And so Spencer was wondering, he says he has enough people in his area to start a chapter. That's great, Spencer. And how can I make sure to successfully facilitate a chapter?
Thanks, Spencer. So that's a fabulous question. We should definitely speak further after this webinar. But the first thing you need to do, I could hook you up with the necessary documents you would need on our end to get you on the books and start working with you. How to be successful? I mean, that's a big question. I guess I would say successfully facilitate it. I mean, I think you should have regular meetings. I think you should keep them pretty open and democratically run, where everyone feels like they have a chance to speak. I wouldn't want you to get terribly bogged down in drafting a bunch of constitutions or things like that for yourselves. I would encourage you to focus on your common activity. I've found in my organizing experience, what really works for people is let's find the thing we all want to work on together and focus on that and set some concrete goals on doing that, on, cleaning up that river or hosting that event, whatever the case may be. And I find that staying focused on the work is really what unites people. And that, I guess that would be my largest piece of advice. But I don't know if you're thinking, if you have other questions that are more specific, you can hit me with them now, or
Bowen was wondering, while we're talking about chapters, about what constitutes a chapter, Andrew.
Great question. So presently we ask that 5 or more people in a locality where we don't already have a chapter, but we only have one in Seattle right now, so that shouldn't be a terrible problem. Just state in writing, I have a form for you, that they would like to form a chapter where they live. I'm actually speaking with our board and others if maybe it would make sense initially to lower that number, but for the time being, we just ask that we have 5. We can know that 5 people are into this idea, so that we can rest assured, if 1 or 2 of them flake out or things change in their life, that hopefully the chapter will persist where they live.
So, and Bowen was also wondering if you have existing synergies in his area, or
I'm sorry. I can't remember I think we've spoken, but I do not actually recall off the top of my head where your area is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but so far there is only a chapter existing in Seattle. Yes.
Yeah, I should say, I mean, people have been doing work for Cascadia as a social work, like all over the place for at least 10 years, and at various times have called themselves different things. There's definitely a lot of people out there, but like this iteration, this program, in terms of formally becoming a CascadiaNow chapter, in the past year and a half, we just have our Seattle chapter at this time.
So Rebecca, who's a part of the University of Oregon, she liked to support Cascadia, and would go through. She had asked about liability before, so this was further on her question about that. That she would like to go through the Office of Sustainability and of the outdoor barn, which would provide liability. So that would provide the liability she was talking about. But is it okay to promote Cascadia without having to be the main focus of the group? Any recommendations?
Yes.
That's a great question. Great question.
I think that it is perfectly okay. I think a lot of what we do is going to be promoting Cascadia without it always being the main focus. Obviously here at CascadiaNow, Cascadia is always front and center, but lots of people we're working with and things they're doing. For example, we sponsor a project called the Rain City Poetry Slam that is all about giving young poets space where they can perform and get better and go to competitions. And so that's the main focus of their work, is actually poetry, but we're also super excited to get involved with them and bring them on as a sponsored project, because we think it's great for Cascadia, great for Cascadians, for young poets to have that kind of forum. So anytime you're out there doing good work, we'd love to hear from you, would want to work from you. I still think it would be great if even if you're an ambassador and you were like, you know what, I don't necessarily want to start a chapter of Cascadia but I do love this idea. I want to talk about it. I'd love to give out some stickers and flyers and chat with folks while we're doing our other thing, whatever that may be, kayaking. I think that is fabulous.
So Andrew was wondering about CascadiaNow starting a state initiative, not about secession, because you covered that for us already, but instead merging Washington and Oregon into one state. Could this boost interest for Cascadia directly by removing the Washington-Oregon state boundary and combining resources? What's your thought on this, or starting another CascadiaNow initiative?
Well, so I should say, so our political policy, we can't endorse given candidates. I think we could theoretically work on something like that. It's not something I know a whole lot about, to be honest with you. I'm just hearing it from you now in your question. But I guess that would probably be something that we would want to hear a lot about in our surveys. We just did our annual survey. Hopefully some of you filled out. If we were getting a strong enough push from our membership across the board, I think it could be something to consider, certainly. But I just don't know at this time, to be honest.
So, and Sammy had another just kind of question. You sort of already answered it, just about what our position would be about federal lands. Sammy has local friends that are wrapped up in the wild, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Oahe proposal to make the wilderness or monument. So would Cascadia now be more likely to support this or watch it happen with no input? And so, again, I think you kind of answered this already, that it's our political endorsement policy the way it is, but this, that's different. So,
yeah, I mean, that's influence. So their idea is to make the area a wilderness or monument. At this time, we don't have ambassadors or members that I know of that are in that area doing this kind of work. So I don't think it's something that I would step into here from where I am in Seattle. But I do think, supposing, say, we had a chapter that was working closely with that tribe, and the tribe just wanted to form a monument, I don't see that as necessary. I think that could potentially be something that would not contradict our political policy, and I think it would be probably pretty cool if they had a monument.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Sammy also says it about protecting it for future generations. So that is, and that is something we want Cascadia to be beautiful and protected and gorgeous for everybody for a long time. Rebecca was wondering what would be direct ways to promote Cascadia in a group that's not directly about Cascadia. So she says, I could give out stickers, flags, but are there other ways I can promote or support this group? A lot of people have talked about that like the idea, but want to help the movement, and she doesn't know how, besides just those ideas. Buying t-shirt, besides buying t-shirts, besides handing out stickers and flags, what else can she do to just raise awareness or help the movement? Good question, Rebecca.
Well, so I guess I'm curious what the nature of this group is, because that would help give me more ideas. I mean, part of our mission is just raising awareness. So I think the ideas.
I think that she's just talking about, maybe personally what she wants to do.
Well, I think the question was to promote Cascadia in a group that is not directly about Cascadia. Is that right? I see down here. Yeah. So, I mean, I would push you. I'm curious to know what this group is. I wonder if there's probably not, there may well be a way that it does connect to Cascadia, and you could think about something cool to do. I'm really excited to see what people's own imaginations come up with. If another way, I mean, obviously, say if there's a chapter near you, you could try to recruit people out of this other group and club and be like, hey, maybe you'd also be interested in joining the CascadiaNow chapter that does X, Y, or Z, of course. Or depending on what the group is, I mean, I would be surprised if we couldn't come up with some kind of cool event. Maybe you do some kind of crossover educational webinar, sort of like this, where you take experts from one group and invite audiences from both CascadiaNow folks and whatever this other group is to tune in and learn something and connect people that way. But I'm optimistic that we could come up with something.
So Chris, there you go. You see it. Sorry. So Chris wants to know about, as ambassadors, how do we go about paperwork-wise applying for funds for a given project?
That's a great question, Chris. So we're still working that out. Of course, it depends a lot on how much money we're taking in through donations in a given year. We do have reimbursement forms, but I think that part of being an ambassador and forming a chapter is going to be aggressively doing your own fundraising as well. And then our hope would be that we could support you from here by publicizing that fundraiser to our audience. There's also been talk about trying to get some store merchandise out to chapters or helping them to say do a run of t-shirts that then you sell or give away for donations that go directly to your chapter. But I would say very much a work in progress, definitely something that anyone who becomes an ambassador and I and us here at CascadiaNow need to talk about. we'll be having conference calls. We'll be staying in touch, but obviously want to send as much money as we can to you guys, especially when it's going right to a great project. But there will definitely also be some need, I'm certain, for you to do your own fundraising. So I don't know if we still, obviously there's some other things, sort of nuts and bolts to talk about this evening, but I'm happy to keep, these questions have been great, so I'm happy to keep answering them as long as folks have them. Are we as ambassadors supported at Cascadia now by a mentor, so to speak? Great question. I mean, we could talk about that. Our hope is that some of our first ambassadors who are on this webinar now could definitely, hopefully, help play that role for other people. We do have some experienced folks here in the Seattle area and elsewhere, so we could talk about connecting you with them if that would be helpful to you. And definitely are interested in the future, as some of you, as more people get out there and gain experience, would definitely want to capitalize on then maybe, maybe you could be a buddy, some kind of buddy system for the next generation of ambassadors or something like that. So short answer, no established mentor program, but maybe we could figure something out or create something.
Some of the questions are going by. Andrew said that Andrew would be interested in being an ambassador, but I fear that I'll be stranded out on my own without any contact with groups outside of my area. Are there regional meetings for ambassador and groups to meet? Yeah, great question.
Yeah, so Andrew, first I would encourage you to try anyways. I don't know where you're located, but it may well be that we could connect you with people who have contacted us in the past and that you are not as lonely as you think. Regional meetings are an awesome idea. I know we floated the idea of maybe trying to do some kind of conference probably in 2017. So definitely want to figure out the best way to connect people and make it so they don't feel so lonely. But until we do that or are able to do that, it's our hope that we can all kind of support each other, by having regular conference calls, but with all of the regional ambassadors, with myself, and also maybe a Google group or email list, anything we can do to support each other across great distances, we should and will do. And then definitely hopefully could do some regional meetups or find maybe the closest ambassador to you won't be too far away.
Yeah, and Andrew's in Pullman for studies, but Moscow, Idaho is where Andrew lives. So that's remote, Andrew, but it's beautiful. I love it there. And actually, speaking of the Google chat for kind of regional that you talked about, Andrew, did you have a poll that you wanted to ask the ambassadors that are here now, or people thinking about being ambassadors about that?
Yeah, I mean, that would kind of, I can run it now. It might be kind of transitioning out of questions for the moment.
Yeah, we do still have some good questions going. So another question, Rebecca wanted to know about where would fundraising money go? So if as an ambassador or a chapter, and then along the same lines, Megan was asking if things like fees for tabling at events and a farmer's market be eligible for reimbursement from CascadiaNow. So I guess it's kind of, as an ambassador, and you do some fundraising, those kinds of.
So yeah, I love that question. Well, two things. So as for tabling fees as an ambassador, I think we have some, small budget set aside for that. But definitely if we can find free or affordable events or events that you can afford to donate and cover that fee, that's probably ideal. But I will have to check with our accountant, our associate director, essentially to double check how much of that we can shoulder. But I would say as much as possible, my priority is I want anyone who wants to be able to table, and I just really don't want that to be prohibitive. So I'm optimistic that we could figure that out. But again, ultimately in the mid to longer term, chapters would definitely have to be raising money for their own activities, and we would just be really striving to support that how we can by putting call outs to our lists. I mean, we have a lot of people like a lot of people in a lot of areas that I'm optimistic we could connect folks with, help them put on awesome fundraisers. You know, we've heard from lots of small business owners that have told us they'd like to partner on fundraisers and events and things like that. So I hope we can work something out. But we should talk. That would be definitely like a specific agenda item that I could get some more information and we could talk about on a conference call. But definitely want to hear about it. If you're like, oh, I want to do this, I can't pay the tabling fee. Can Cascadia Now do it? Please ask me, and we'll just deal with it one event at a time for the moment. Broader question there about chapters. When you become a chapter, you are becoming legally associated with us. You become part of our legal entity, and of course there's admin and overhead for that. So we would be working on a process where we would really want any money you raise to stay with you, but I think we would ultimately, that money would sit in an account that we manage and pay taxes on. And I think there's we have to hold back 7% to cover our administrative costs on our end, but then would have that money flagged in your chapter account, say the Portland chapter, and the money you raise would be for you aside from that.
So basically, so as far as just an ambassador goes, though, Andrew, because I think Rebecca had kind of asked what would specifically the fundraising money go to, and so I mean the answer to that is really like it's for if you want to be at a table at a certain event, because you do have to pay fees for those things.
Oh, so I guess so she's asking money that she raises.
Yeah.
So for the time being, until you become a chapter, I mean you're just in the eyes of the IRS, you're an unincorporated association. You don't exist. You're just a cool person doing cool work. So there would just be mutual trust there initially. If someone was inclined to donate to you, that you are putting that back into your own activities to try to build towards a chapter. It would only be at the chapter level that we would become involved with your finances.
Thank you, Andrew. So Sammy had a great question. How do you avoid getting sucked into political discussions while tabling? So that's a great question. That was one you might have already been ready to cover, but there you go. Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah.
What is your tactic to engage meaningfully but avoid the traps?
Ooh, such a good question. Well, I do my share of sidestepping and making jokes, but I guess that wouldn't qualify as meaningful. But I mean, I guess I would say that individually, I think it's okay. I mean, you're entitled to your beliefs and opinions. Obviously, just as a nonprofit, blah, 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 we have our own policies and things as an organization, but I don't see any problem with, as long as you're clear with people that, this isn't what the organization thinks, but here's what I think. I definitely wouldn't want to stop you from having meaningful political conversations with people. I mean, I have some myself. For my part, I'm usually trying to think how that connects back to something I can get them involved in that they would be interested in. But no, I'm sorry, I don't have any silver bullet for you, but I just think, but I think being honest with people works pretty well.
Thanks, Andrew. Hey, so Chris is wondering about back to fundraising again. When it comes to fundraising, and if we need some technical infrastructure support, like setting up an online payment method, is there assistance from CascadiaNow headquarters?
Yes, definitely. Chris, we could talk further. I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking, but we would I think we could help figure that out. And definitely at the chapter level, I think we would set it up on our website so that you could have people give directly to your chapter, but via our website. And then ultimately, maybe if you have Wi-Fi or something, if you're able to do that where you're tabling, you could make it even easier for people to be like, oh yeah, just click on the Victoria chapter, and that'll ensure that it goes to our account.
So Andrew was wondering then about if we have 100 active ambassadors around Cascadia. That sounds awesome.
Right.
Each with a dozen members in their chapter. What would be the next step? How would Cascadia Now utilize this in the future?
I love that question. I think that would be something to discuss at our conference in 2017. I definitely don't think I'm definitely not here to tell you that. You know, I would think that is something that we should develop a strategy collectively. And the more people that we have active and engaged, obviously, the more notice, more attention we'll be getting, and the more social power we'll have. So I'm so caught up in the day to day, to be honest with you. I haven't fantasized as much as I should, but would love to hear what you or others in the room think about that. So I'm wondering now if did I finally get caught up on questions for the time being. 1 chapter equals 5 ambassadors, question mark. Oh no, they don't all have to be ambassadors. Ambassadors just a starting point for me to have contact with some good folks that I know are doing organizing, but they don't all have to have gone through all of this necessarily. You as the ambassador can kind of be that focal point and recruit others. Great. I think, well, please keep the questions coming because I'll answer some more at the end. But I did want to go over sort of the nuts and bolts for a moment. For one thing, I don't know how many new people are here, but I was interested to learn. I'm creating a new poll that is to ask you who wants to be an ambassador. And if you already are one, you know, and hopefully still want to be one, you can just say yes.
Hey, and Andrew, while you're doing that poll, Andrew was wondering if there is a physical location ambassadors can go to for help.
No embassies, unfortunately. If you mean, I'm not sure where you're located, but hopefully we could meet up if there is someone close enough, or if you're ever through Seattle, of course, or I travel some, we could get together and get coffee and talk. And obviously longer term goals, like the other question, excuse me, that you had asked about, if we have 100 ambassadors and with a dozen member chapters, maybe at that point we'll be raising enough money to afford physical spaces, embassies, if you will. But no physical building at this time.
Rebecca has a great question then too. Is there any literature about Cascadia's movement, or just good reading or videos that we should show to our groups?
Yes, there is. I mean, you can find a lot of it on our website and social media, but also if you choose to become an ambassador, I have a digital ambassador kit. This actually is transitioning very nicely into the next part of my presentation, which is the first thing I would do if you said you wanted to be an ambassador, would be to send you a physical kit, a physical tabling kit with flyers and things. But secondly, to share with you a digital kit, which that would be shared with all the other ambassadors, where we have a reading list, and also we should all drop more things in there. It's definitely meant to be a space for collaboration, whereas different ambassadors, any of us, come across other good resources like that, we could share them with each other there. So yes, Bone, I see digital ambassador kit question mark. If I haven't already, once you tell me that, yes, I want to be an ambassador, it's on a Google Drive folder, which is really easy if you haven't used it before to collaborate on. And it allows any of us to go in there and create documents, drop documents. And I've already, to get us started, I have kind of a dozen different things there, from a handout of like common questions and answers, organizational policies, contact info for other ambassadors, all that kind of thing. So that'll be, if you would like to become an ambassador, I'll send you a physical kit. I'll share the digital kit with you. Another couple things about that I'm interested in are if people think it would be a good idea. Oh, I'm glad everyone here wants to be an ambassador. That is wonderful. The next thing I wanted to ask you via poll was, do you think we should set up a Google group? Let's start that poll. I was thinking that it would be a good idea to just go ahead and have a running Google group of all ambassadors, but I just wanted to run that by folks and just make sure that that sounded that they didn't have a better idea and that sounded okay. And again, so far at least, it seems like people think that's a great idea. So I'll go ahead and do that in the next couple weeks here or less. I have your email addresses, but I'll try to set up a Google group for us. So that'll be one good way we can communicate. And a second part of that question I wanted to ask people was, would you mind that list being used as also sort of a forum, like for people to talk about anything, political ideas, thoughts, opinions? I was just curious if people would be annoyed to have all of that showing up in their inbox. Would you be bothered by it being, should we keep it to like organizing stuff and like little check-ins, or would people be okay with it also turning into more of a discussion forum? So please answer that poll. Maybe we'll get a little more diversity on that one, because I'm sure people have different opinions about that.
Hey, Andrew, Sammy added a file and a static map of ambassador geography. That's so cool. To the digital ambassador kit. So he was wanting to make sure that other ambassadors who have seen the digital ambassador kit can see that map in the drive. Have you seen that, or know that other ambassadors have?
I haven't been in there lately. But if you drop, we all have editing permissions and are all shared. So if you dropped it in there, they should be able to see it. I'm afraid to check myself right now because it might crash Webinar Jam. But if it's not there, I will get with you, Sammy. Thank you so much for doing that. I know you'd email me about that. Super cool. I'll make sure that gets in there one way or another. And also definitely, that'll be one of the, definitely want people to collaborate and put stuff in there, and want to know if it's not working and make sure that it is.
Megan has a great question that we were talking about earlier, actually, Andrew. Because I'm the communications manager, that Megan wanted to know, can I create a social media account / email that's specific to my area? Great question.
The answer is definitely yes. Yes, but we're just Bethany and I are trying to get squared away the best and smoothest way for her to integrate that with her communications plan, everything going on our website and social media. But we definitely will be getting some social media guidelines and kind of like a step-by-step what we would ask if you could be so kind as to do it a certain way. We are going to get that out ASAP. But we definitely would hope and expect that people are starting their own regional or local Facebook pages that they're posting cool content on, and that we're getting more people connected that way.
And it's much easier, Megan, for official chapters to do that. Like Andrew said, we encourage anybody to do that, but official chapters, we actually have some Facebook pages already ready to go that are just waiting for a chapter to manage them. We also have some web pages ready to go for official chapters to manage them as well. But we'd love even ambassadors to get going on that. So thank you for that.
Another couple important things I wanted to just mention about tabling. I know some of you already have your kits. A few important things are that they come with sign-up sheets and a clipboard. And I would just really hope that you share those sign-ups with me. Primarily, they're for you to start developing your own contacts that you keep, that you will keep organized somewhere to do whatever it is you want to do with them. But just a scan or even a photo would probably work fine, and emailing it to me would be much appreciated, because when people check, that they want the newsletter or something like that, I definitely want to get them into our database and, get them plugged into the whole thing. So that would be awesome. And the other thing is just a little reminder to please share photos. It's so fun and great to always share photos of what you're doing. We always need more photos. Looking for a photographer, actually, a volunteer near here to take photos of our events, because we always forget. But if you have time to share that, maybe on the Google group or on our Facebook page, that is always tremendously appreciated. Excuse me. The other thing that I wanted to say, let's see, I didn't look back at our poll. Ooh, we had 71% saying it would be okay to have the forum be, kind of chatter, and 29% saying no. Clear majority, I guess we got to go with for the time being. It's obviously, of course, something we could revisit on conference calls or at a physical conference at some point in time. But for the time being, I'll just set up a Google group, and people can feel free to send whatever they feel to it. And those of us who don't want to hear all of it, we'll just have to play with our own filters. Finally, I wanted to talk about the future of ambassadors and chapters. I mean, you've all beat me to it with your great questions for the most part. But in addition to a Google group, I was thinking that for the time being, maybe like a monthly conference call to check in with as many of us as possible to just kind of report back. And I would email that all about to you soon. I don't have it right here in front of me, but I do have another one scheduled. And I was thinking I was going to try sort of splitting the call, like having the first half hour be for new people who'd like to become ambassadors, where I would go over the first part of this presentation and stuff you've all heard before. And then maybe have a later call-in time for the rest of you where we could check in with each other and see how it's going and see how we could better support you, et cetera. And then, maybe I could invite the interested people to hang around on the call, the new people, and be like, oh yeah, so that's what being an ambassador is. If you want, you can stay on the line and, kind of see what's going on. Let's see, I'm seeing more ideas about how to organize the discussion section, which I think are great. We'll definitely want to get that sorted. I think, and for the time being, there's only going to be about 10 folks. So I think, we'll be okay if I get the ball rolling, but then ultimately, yeah, maybe we can figure out better ways to organize that, and we should.
Sammy had a suggestion for a poll, everybody, that I started, that I would love to be more plugged into Cascadia discussion outside of the general awareness perspective. So that poll's going right now. And it looks like it's 100% so far. So if you haven't answered that poll yet, that's a great question, Sammy.
Yeah. Well, I'll just let people answer it in that poll. It's definitely one of our broader organizational goals to figure out the best way we can enable a forum to do that. Like for just ambassadors, I thought a Google group might be okay, but then there's questions of, should we make our own forum? There is, of course, already like a Cascadia subreddit. Should we just send people there? But definitely, I definitely think people are interested in that, and we're interested in how we can make it happen. Finally, I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, it sounds like a lot of you are already going full steam ahead towards chapterhood, full steam ahead towards finding your first event. And then sounds like it'll be on me to figure out if I can help pay that tabling fee or whatever I need to do on my end to help make it happen. I would just, as we're wrapping up here, if we have any final questions or anything that I may have missed, that would be great. Go ahead, Bethany.
You can see Sammy's question up there at the top.
Yeah, so Sammy asked if I'm aware of the state of Lincoln. Similar to say, this is like an East Side idea, and the short answer is no. No, I'm not. So I will have to check that out. Andrew asking that he's busy elsewhere, but can he still be an ambassador? I'd like to be a person to contact for others interested in Cascadia, which might involve into a small group of people. Yeah, no, Andrew, you definitely can. Obviously, we hope for chapters, but it's not mandatory. I had been speaking with one guy who was a musician and was like, oh, I don't think I'll have time, et cetera, et cetera. And I was trying to encourage him, like, well, if you're playing a lot of shows, why don't you just, when you set up your table next to your CDs and stuff, also put out this Cascadia stuff? Just throw out a sign-up sheet and some flyers and see what sticks. So I would say yes. That reminds me, I think we're going to have open enrollment for a month or so, maybe longer, depending on how many people we get, until we have about 25 or 30 ambassadors. I think that's what we've decided is all we can handle for the year for the time being. So that would be, as long as enrollment is open, we would welcome you to get involved. How would I respond to a state secessionist with Cascadia? So, I mean, for my part, I actually haven't encountered anyone who's really passionate about this when I'm tabling. But I know that they must exist. I guess my goal is always for them to, like, I just want them to not hate us. My goal is always for them to be like, I hope they would walk away from the conversation thinking like, oh, you know, that's not my thing, but they're all right, or something along those lines. Because I think hopefully they would still think a lot of the work we're doing is really cool, maybe is willing to support it as an individual or something like that in some ways. But if they're just too pure ideologue, like not interested in anything we're doing because it's not secessionist, then that's just the way the cookie crumbles. In terms of what I would say to them, I mean, I guess I'd like to have a conversation to flush that out and see if maybe I couldn't convince them that even though it wasn't what they wanted, we were still pretty cool. Curiosity question. If I'm sorry, I think I missed some of the discussion going on here. People wanting to secede if Trump is president. Yeah, we'll see. Curiosity question: when CascadiaNow is looking for founding members last spring, how many donated? I've heard that's not my area, so I can't reliably comment on the exact number. But I want to say that at our staff meeting the other day, I heard that we had 400 members give money. I'm not sure if those were all in the context of that campaign, but I think I want to say somewhere around 400, but I could be wrong. Any other questions? I'm trying to think if I covered it all. Thank you for bearing with me. You've been wearing me out. The next step, if you're already an ambassador, you're plugged in. So it'll be, I'm thinking, a conference call. But please always email me with anything you're thinking, anything comes along. And when appropriate, you know, if it's email all of us. I do think to keep the traffic down on that list for people who are concerned about that, you know, when it's not strictly, when you don't need to, we probably don't need to be replying all. But if it is relevant to everybody or cool, like that thing you made, Sammy, like that cool map, I think that's definitely something that we should send out to the whole list of ambassadors, which of course you can find in that digital kit. But yeah, and we'll talk on the conference call if we can make it, or if you can't, or whatever happens, definitely stay in touch with me individually. Excited for you to select your first event and get out there tabling or do something else. I should also mention, I was going to save this for the conference call, but we're also looking into doing a speaking / probably more of like a listening tour. Our executive director, Brandon, and the founder of CascadiaNow was going to take maybe me sometimes, maybe some other volunteers from Seattle, and try to make it out to some of the cities where you're all at, to better connect with you, maybe do some kind of event or orientation. Really wanted to hear from you what you thought would be a good idea wherever you are, to figure out, yeah, if we could meet in person, get connected that way, and then figure out maybe it would also be a good time or a good way for us to put that out to other people who we know are interested in your area, if you wanted to invite them to that event. Thank you, Bethany. She just dropped the call info. The next call is scheduled for Monday, January 25th. I'm going to see if I could get new people to call at 7, and you folks would all be returning to call in at 7:30, and we'll see how that works. And if it doesn't work, you know, I can always break those into 2 separate calls. But I thought it could be kind of nice, so we'll see.
Andrew was wondering how many people are involved in CascadiaNow in total. And I'm not sure if that follows along with the founding membership question, like how many you know, I mean, how many, I guess, members there are, and then maybe how many volunteers there are, and then maybe how many staff there are, what kind of numbers?
Yeah, sure.
If you know.
It's a tough question because it's hard to know what are you going to count as involved, right? So in terms of we've had interactions with thousands of people. And I think we use a database called Little Green Light. That's like a nonprofit database for managing that information. And I don't know, I mean, there's thousands of folks in there, but some of those folks, maybe they might have just bought something from the store, and that might be it. Whereas other folks have fiscally sponsored projects. So another number would be, there's something called tagging, right? When you put someone in the database, we tag them as a volunteer if they expressed, you know, an interest in actually doing something instead of just passively supporting. And to be honest with you, lately I've only been looking in the Puget Sound area. I think there's like 300 or 400. I haven't ran a search recently for just everyone with that tag across Cascadia. So I'm very high. I just think that whatever number I tell you is going to be very wrong. But if you know that the Puget Sound area is 300 or 400, you know, you can probably extrapolate, a couple thousand maybe. But I could look that up for you. CascadiaNow as a nonprofit, you know, it's only been a nonprofit for a year and a half. We've kind of been adding a few. Right now we're 5 part-time staff, who are, each of us are just 2 days a week. And we just reached that number, slowly been adding staff. Is there a place on Cascadia Now oriented towards jobs in Cascadia? That would be cool. No, we unfortunately do not have something like that. Something we'll probably get to first. We do have folks working on a Made in Cascadia project to try to provide, you know, I'm sure you can all imagine all the great things that are to be done with that idea. But at a minimum, you know, try to provide a place where people can go, like a directory, to get connected with local businesses.
Great idea. So thank you, you guys. So it's a little after 8. You have worn Andrew out. This has been a great call, and a great time, Andrew. Thank you so much. I do have, just if you I'd like to just share with you just Andrew's contact information if you're interested then in reaching out to Andrew to become an ambassador, with any other questions about being an ambassador. Just really awesome so much tonight. Thank you all so much. We always want to connect with all of you. It's a huge part of our region to cultivate, our mission to cultivate a resilient and inclusive Pacific Northwest community. So your questions and comments are welcome, you know, anytime. And we're really excited to connect with you by email or on any of your favorite social media channels. You can visit our website anytime too and find out more. The phone call for the ambassador phone call will be there, the information for that in case you missed that tonight. So you can go to our website, CascadiaNow.org, and find out more about our ambassador program. You're going to get an email with the link to today's replay, and it's also going to be available on the Cascadia Now YouTube channel. We have more exciting bio-regional based webinars coming up in the Cascadia Speak series on February 4th at 1 p.m. Washington State University Extension Forestry Program Coordinator Lauren Grand will be teaching us about the common lower elevation trees of Cascadia. And on March 14th at 12 p.m., an instructor from Ravens Roots Naturalist School is going to present on a comprehensive natural medicine cabinet. So some great stuff coming. Very excited. Be sure you're following us so you don't miss out. And thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Andrew. Have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for all your nice thank yous over there. Sammy, I will try to drop that patch. Good night, and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon. And don't hesitate to contact me before that conference call.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.